wake up every minute with the fever dreams. I put the mind to a limit where it needs to be. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns out with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't stop me. I wanna be the greatest like Rocky. You know I leave them all hating like a hobby. I'm out here making moves like a lobby. And if you ain't with me, it's you lost, see. I got my mind on the facts, I'm a python, grab what I like real fast. Choke until I have everything I attack, everything that I lack, everything that I want, and I see, matter of fact. Cause I'm my own worst enemy. Only if I let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny. Deep up in my mind I manifest it. Every morning I wake up obsessed and
What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. I believe this is part 5 of the mini truck build. This is the episode of laying the tape down, laying the fine line down for the design that we created back in the last video. So this video is going to reveal that. I've already worked ahead a couple days. I've got one side almost completely done. I've already done the transfer image and got it all pounced out to do on the other side. I want to show you guys how far along I am right now. That way you guys get an idea of what this is going to actually look like. It's turned out really, really well. So, as you can see, driver's side is all laid out. I've got a couple little things inside the door jamb to do as far as the tape work goes. And then I'm going to pull the fender off, get it all, and start actually outlining this graphic. Just going through the thought process on this is, like I said, this is a design I did on the computer in the last episode. So if you did not see that, go back and watch that video. Go back and watch that video if you have not already. It'll explain how I designed it, this process, the steps, everything. And then once I got that complete, I came out here, cleaned the side off, looked at the image, and just started laying tape by freehand. There are multiple different ways to do this. A lot of guys, you can either do like a projector. If your projector can do big images, you can do it freehand like I did. You can draw it out on paper and pounce it like most guys do when they transfer an image. I do everything pretty much from freehand. I'll actually look at the reference photo that I created, and I'll pick an area and just start going at it. And then everything, I do it that way because you get a chance for everything to flow. If you were just, especially with how I created the image, it was so rough of a drawing. I just needed placement for the patterns and the designs and the graphics. So it was just it's like a roadmap, like I said in the last video. And that's kind of how I do this. I just treat it as another step. Overall, it is pretty big. It's pretty complicated, as you can see. Right now, you probably don't understand what you're looking at, but once I start taping it off and spraying paint and peeling tape back off and all the different colors, it'll start making more sense. But first step is first. It is actually, like I said, it's just doing the fine line. What I use is a tape company called FBS Fineline. I've got a package right here if you guys are interested. It's pretty much just custom tape. I use a 1/16 of an inch fine line. This is an 18-inch package, but I use that and plus the 1/16 on this side because I ran out. But that's just my process of how to do it. It's just what makes sense to me. It's faster for me. So once I get all this done, like I said, I'm gonna pull the fender off, start hardline masking everything, and then we'll go from there as far as what needs to be done next. I'm gonna probably transfer the image on the other side, and I'll kind of explain that real quick to you guys. So what I did after I got the fine line down, I spread this big piece of paper alongside the whole truck, took up the whole truck, and then I pressed it down, taped it down. I took a pencil and I traced every line. Now what this does, it gives it gives placement. Instead of going to the other side, usually when you're mirroring something, you want it to be as close as possible to the other side that you're doing. So this is a really good way. It's an old school technique. Transfer it, and then we take as a pounce wheel is what we call this. It's got little spikes on it, and you just go around and you actually just follow the line, and it'll poke these little holes in it. And then once you do that, you can flip the image over on the other side, and you tape it down, you know, get your placement right. You want to do like kind of markers on the truck. You know, I did the fender liners. The wheel wells openings is what I kind of marked off to help me do the other side, line it up correctly. That way it matches this side as perfect as I possibly can get it. And then after you get that done, you take some white chalk or whatever color chalk you have, and you just pounce it on the paper. And what happens is that chalk goes through the holes that you pounced, and you can pull the paper off, and you'll have a direct representation of the holes that you pounce into the paper, which is where the tape's going to actually lay on the other side. So it is a little bit more tedious to do it that way, but it's one of the fewer ways you can actually get something to be as correct and, you know, placement wise, be as correct as possible. Because like I said, that's one thing, you know, especially on these show cars and trucks, if you're doing graphics and you're doing, you know, mirror image on the other side from the other side, then you want it to be as correct as, you know, as mirror image as possible, because if not, you're gonna start seeing that when you start laying color down. So it's really time consuming. I mean, it's a little bit more time consuming than it is hard, but if you take your time and you do it right and you do it correctly and you lay your lines out and you just take your time, then anybody can do this. I feel like this is the easiest way that anybody can learn. Now, if you're just doing one side, you can pretty much just freehand it, or if you're doing something that's not symmetrical, you don't have to do it this way because you're not doing the exact same pattern. But this just makes it a lot easier. There's no guessing in this. As long as you punch the holes right and get the lines, you know, punched right, that chalk's going to show you that line that you need to set this stuff at. So that's just a little bit about what I have done already, what's done on the truck. So I'm gonna probably put you guys on like a time-lapse video. I'm only gonna be out here for probably a few hours, but I'm hoping to get the door jamb finished up. There are a couple spots on this thing where the tape is kind of lifting at, because another thing, when you're laying this tape, when you pull it, you know, when you lay it, you don't want to pull it. You want it to lay flat, and you can see right here this white direct representation of what happens when you pull it. So little stuff like that I need to fix. Not a big deal, being this is just the first side, but things like that you don't want paint to blow under, things like that when you start laying color down, because it's going to really screw you up. So that's number one rule of pulling or laying this fine line tape. Any tape, really, honestly, you do not want to stretch it, because it's kind of, after time, it's got like an elastic band to it. It's gonna shrink back to its normal size after a while, especially with heat and cold weather. It's gonna do what it wants to do, so you really don't want to stretch it at all if you can help it, especially with things like this, a big project where the tape's gonna stay on this for a very long time. So that's probably the only big rule you gotta watch for when you're messing with fine line tapes, is do not stretch it. You just want to kind of just flow with it and lay it the way it needs to be laid. Stretching it, overstretching it, or whatever, it's gonna start pulling back up on you. So I'm gonna get to work. I've got a lot to do. I'm gonna try. Today is Monday, so I'm gonna try by Friday to have at least all the fine line done on the entire truck. I've got the other side to do, like I said, and then the tailgate is actually gonna get graphics. It's gonna continue on from this side, and the other side it's gonna continue on. I don't know if I'm going to do like a symmetrical thing. I kind of don't want to, but I want to kind of do something a little bit different. So I've got a lot of work to do. So I'm just going to shut up and get working. And I'm going to put you guys probably on a time lapse. So let me explain what I'm doing here. That way you guys can kind of follow along with how the process is going through my head as I'm doing this, because it's going to look like a bunch of mess pretty much until it gets finished almost. So here, everything, this design, the way it's laid out, everything that's following this line right here, which comes out over here, everything above that, if it's not a graphic, it's staying this factory blue color. So I'm pretty much, what I'm doing is I'm two-toning the truck without two-toning the truck with graphics, if that makes sense to you. So everything above this green line, or this green tape right here going down, besides this graphic that's going to interlay, it's going to weave in and out of that. Everything inside of here, it goes around all the way back to the end of the truck. Is staying above it is going to stay blue of the factory color. Everything below it's either getting graphics or, you know, it's going to get different things added onto it, things like that. So what I'm doing, I'm essentially just going around and I'm going to start masking off these areas, because of what the way I want to do is I just want to lay plastic down, cover everything that's staying the factory color, and then coming back in and being able to tape each one of these lines off to do the different colors in all the different areas. You can do it multiple different ways. This is just how I do it, how I kind of get things moving along here. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be separating the factory color from all the other graphic colors. Most of them are candies. There are a couple base coats I'm going to be using, but I'm just going to separate the two, make a little bit more easier for me to mask down the road. So the good thing with this graphic that I created, that I did on the hood over here, as you can see this, I did this a while back, I've shown this before, but every color that I've used, besides the factory blue, is actually, it's got to get silver put down before it gets to color put down. So I can mask these different areas off, especially this big one, and just spray everything below it silver, and then go back in and individually do each color one by one. And then if I'm doing, you know, most of the stuff's going to get kind of like a texturing effect to it. So that's just the fastest way for me to do it. Like I said, there are multiple different ways to do this. Like the saying, there's multiple different ways to skin a cat. So this is just how I'm going to do it. It's going to be the quickest for me. And then once I pull that fine line off, once I get all the colors done, it's going to leave a blue, the factory blue on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the whole entire project probably 4 or 5 times, trying to bury those lines, the different, you know, the different colors. I'm going to try to bury everything, go back and slick sand it down, and then come back and pinstripe it and do any final details I need to do, and then re-clear it 4 or 5 more times, come back in, sand it back down. If I notice anything that needs touched up, touch it up again, and then come back in and do another 4 or 5 coats. So essentially I'm putting a lot of clear on this, but with these show projects, these show cars and trucks, things like that, that's how you get this, that's how you, when you go to shows, how things are getting so slick, is, you know, you're blocking down the clear every time. You're burying those graphics. That way when you go down to look the side of it, there's no bumpiness, there's no unevenness. It's all just one flat, like a piece of glass. And that's how you do it this way. So I'll put you guys back on the tripod and get you guys going on a time lapse as All right, so we got everything that's going to be staying blue masked off the way I want it, door jambs and all. Fender done. Now I moved on to the side where for the pattern that we mocked out over there, penciled in, pounced out with the pounce wheel, I've got it all lined up now. Now what I did before I took it off the other side was, as I measured and I did a diameter of the wheel wells, and I outlined them in black Sharpie so I can see it, because you really can't see anything when you flip this over. So I black outlined it so I know measurement wise where it needs to be. That way when I go to put this on, the chalk on it and lift it back off, everything should match the other side exactly. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how this works. So it's pretty much just white chalk. What you're doing is just going to be pretty much smearing white chalk over that paper, and all the perforated holes that we've punched out is going to seep into those holes and stay on the truck when we rip that paper off. Pretty simple concept. Like I said, there's multiple ways of doing this, but this is what I use. It's just a quilt pounce with white chalk. Comes with a bag of white chalk, and all you do is take this cap off, fill it up, and then on the other side the sponge, and when you start pouncing, it's going to come through that sponge. So it's pretty simple. I'll show you guys exactly how this works. So I'll take some of this. You know, some of these things work better than others. I might just go put white chalk on this, but you're just going to pretty much smear it. You're not going to be able to see anything exactly until you lift this off. And that's pretty much what you do. You just get this thing and you fill this thing with chalk, and it comes out the other side, and you just smear it. And what it does, it just smears right onto this. And then when you lift this paper off, you'll have your white dots everywhere, and then that's where you put your fine line at. So I'm gonna get to working on this. I'll show you guys after it gets done what it looks like before I put the paper on it. It's gonna be kind of hard to see, but I'll show you guys and walk you through everything, how I lay everything out. All right, so I got all the chalk pounced on. Some areas look really good. You probably won't be able to tell it on camera, the chalk lines, just because how dark this video is going to be in here. But let me turn this back on. But I want to show you guys what it's going to look like. I don't really like some of it, so I'm going to end up wiping this off. But before I do that, I want to show you guys what the transfer image looks like. That way you know for future reference what I'm dealing with here. But you can kind of see where it kind of does it gives the exact line as well. As long as you do your pounces right, you know, with the wheel, everything should line up pretty well. And that's down the whole side of the truck. Like I said, some of it came out really good, some of it didn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over everything with the wheel again, just to make it a little bit more defined, and then go back on and pounce it again, just because I want this to be exactly, and I want to be able to see it fully. But this is just for road mapping. It's not anything that's permanent, so it's just to get the other side to look like this side. So that's it. But I'm going to get to this and probably put you guys on a tripod.